Your thumb hovers, frozen, over the glowing screen of your phone. You check the numbers once, then twice, a frantic tremor starting in your fingers. A third time, your brain stubbornly refusing to process what your eyes already confirm. Powerball, 11. Every single number matches, $500 million. The air inside the car suddenly feels thin, recycled, and stale. You look out the windshield at the grocery store parking lot, watching a woman load groceries into a trunk, completely unaware that the person sitting 3 rows away just became a ghost. Before the surge of joy, before the triumphant shout, before you can even draw a proper breath, a single, terrifying thought pierces through the shock. Do not tell anyone. The phone feels heavy, a live wire in your palm. You lock the screen, but the numbers are burned into your retinas. You look at the steering wheel, the cracked dashboard, the coffee cup in the holder, the familiar, mundane wreckage of your old life. It is still there, but it is already gone. You realize with a cold, sharp clarity that you are no longer a person living in the world. You are a target waiting to be found. You do not start the engine. You do not move. You simply sit, breathing shallow, jagged breaths, waiting for the world to notice that you have changed. You reach into the glove compartment, your fingers brushing against the plastic casing before finding the edge of the paper. It is flimsy, thin, and feels impossibly fragile. 2 days ago, it was just a joke. You were standing in a dusty gas station just outside Columbus, Ohio, waiting for the coffee machine to finish its slow, sputtering drip. The jackpot sign above the counter was flashing, a neon taunt in the dim light. You had laughed, tossed $2 onto the counter, and said, "Give me one quick pick." That was all it took. You had shoved the slip into the compartment and forgotten it existed until this morning. Now, holding it again, the ink looks different. The numbers are the same, but the paper seems to vibrate with a strange, heavy energy. It is no longer a receipt for a gamble. It is a document that has erased your future. You trace the edges, the texture of the thermal paper, rough against your thumb. You are the custodian of a catastrophe. The silence in the car grows heavy, suffocating as you stare at the slip, wondering how something so cheap could cost you everything. You drive home in a daze, the road a blur through your windshield. Every car passing you feels like a threat. Every glance from a driver, a potential discovery. Once inside, you lock the front door, slide the deadbolt, and pull down every blind until the room is swallowed by shadows. You sit at your desk, the glow of the monitor casting a harsh, clinical light on your face. You type the query with shaking fingers. What do you do when you win the lottery? You expect a guide, a map to a better life. The internet delivers a graveyard. You scroll through page after page of horror stories. Winners who were broke and destitute within 5 years. Winners sued by their own siblings. Winners stalked, robbed, poisoned, and hunted. People whose miracle turned into a target painted squarely on their backs. The screen flickers, reflecting your own wide, terrified eyes. The jackpot does not just bring money. It brings an insatiable, hungry attention. You are not a winner. You are a marked person. You find the lawyer through a contact who deals in discretion, not fame. He sits across from you, his voice a steady, rhythmic drone that cuts through your frantic state. He does not offer congratulations. He offers a list of survival protocols. Rule 1, protect your name at all costs. Rule 2, insulate your assets from your own impulses. Rule 3, trust absolutely no one. Not the cousin you grew up with, not the classmate who suddenly remembers your existence, and certainly not the people who claim to love you. You spend the next 48 hours in a blur of paperwork. You are no longer a person, you are a series of legal entities. You sign documents that create a trust, an anonymous shell, a private banking account that exists in the shadows of the financial system. You watch your identity being dismantled and filed away into cabinets. A tax attorney and a financial advisor take over, speaking in calm, detached sentences. Every signature feels like a brick in a wall you are building between yourself and the rest of humanity. By the time the last document is notarized, the person you were is gone. You walk into a conference room that smells of leather and stale air. 3 attorneys sit at the table, their faces unreadable. They treat your ticket not as a slip of paper, but as an ancient, volatile artifact. They slide it under a scanner, their movements precise and slow. One of them looks up, his gaze locking onto yours, and delivers the words that seal your fate. It is real. The air in the room seems to thin. They present the options: the slow drip of an annuity, or the immediate, crushing weight of the lump sum. You choose the lump sum. There is no celebration, only the scratching of pens on thick paper. Weeks later, you sit alone and open the banking app on your phone. A sequence of numbers appears, representing $180 million. You stare at the screen, but the digits do not register as money. They look like a typo, a glitch in the digital fabric of your life. You blink, waiting for the screen to refresh and correct the error, but the number remains. You feel nothing but a hollow, cold silence. You begin to fix things. You open the banking app and start with your own debts. You type in the account numbers for your student loans and your credit cards. With a single tap, the suffocating weight that is pressed against your chest for 3 years simply evaporates. You move to the car payment, then the remaining balance on your home. It takes minutes to undo years of struggle. Then, you turn your attention to your parents. You pay off their mortgage in full. You clear your sister's student loans and settle your aunt's mounting medical bills. One transfer after another, you watch the numbers shift, erasing decades of stress from the lives of those you love. You call your mother. She weeps into the receiver, her voice shaking with a relief that transcends words. Your father, a man who rarely speaks, tells you he is proud. His voice is so quiet, so thick with emotion, that it nearly breaks you. For the first time since the win, the money feels sacred. It is no longer just a digital glitch or a dangerous burden. It is a tool, a strange power granted to you to reach into the lives of others and lift the crushing weight from their chests. You sit in the silence of your room, listening to the echoes of their gratitude, and for a moment, the fear subsides. The sacred feeling does not last. It is replaced by a slow, creeping poison that infects every conversation you have. You sit at the same corner cafe you have frequented for years, listening to a friend complain about a rent increase. You nod, offering sympathetic words, while your phone vibrates with a notification. It is an interest payment from your private account. In that single moment, your phone has earned more money than your friend makes in an entire month. The dissonance is physically painful. You feign empathy, you laugh at the same jokes, and you pretend to worry about the same trivial expenses. But the mask is becoming heavy. Every time someone laments their mounting bills or the stress of their job, you feel a wall rising between you and them. You are no longer participating in their world. You are merely observing it from a distance that cannot be bridged. You still eat at the same places and walk the same streets, but the familiarity is gone. You try to speak, to reach out, but the secret sits in your throat like lead. You are surrounded by people who think they know you, yet you have never been more profoundly alone. 3 weeks later, you walk into the office and submit your resignation. You keep the explanation simple. You talk about needing time off, wanting to travel, and the need to rethink your future. Your boss accepts it without suspicion. By the afternoon, your coworkers have gathered in the break room. They have bought cheap champagne and a sheet cake to mark the occasion. They hug you, tell you to stay in touch, and joke that maybe you will become rich and famous someday. You smile through it all, a hollow mask that hides the truth. None of them know you already are. You return to your desk to clear it out. You pick up a chipped coffee mug, a dying plant, and a framed photo from better years. As you pack these small, meaningless objects into a box, a cold realization dawns. No one will ever be able to tell you what to do again. Instead, the air leaves your lungs. The weight of absolute, unchecked freedom hits you like a physical blow. The floor beneath you could be simply vanished. You leave everything behind. Paris is the first stop, followed by the sharp, cold air of Milan and the quiet, manicured streets of Monaco. You board first-class flights with a single carry-on. You check into suites where the windows frame the entire skyline. You order from menus that list no prices, simply pointing at items until the table is full. You say yes to the helicopter ride over the coast. You say yes to the private driver who waits in silence for hours. You say yes to the vintage wine you cannot pronounce. Every locked door swings open at your touch. Every fantasy you once held becomes a receipt in your pocket. It is intoxicating for exactly 1 week. Then, the silence begins to leak into the rooms. The champagne loses its bite. The bed is soft, yet you lie awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the city below. You have reached the summit of every desire, only to find the air is too thin to breathe. The luxury is absolute, but the meaning is absent. You realize that money can buy you access to every corner of the world, but it cannot buy you a reason to be there. You return home 2 months later, carrying bags filled with items you do not need and a secret that feels radioactive. The silence in the house is heavy. Emily is waiting. She starts asking the questions you have been dreading. She wants to know where the money for the flights comes from. She asks why you quit your job so abruptly. She asks why you disappear for days, and why you look terrified every time your phone rings. You try to deflect, but the weight of the lie is crushing your chest. You sit her down at the kitchen table. You pull out the ticket, now a faded slip of paper, and you tell her everything. You explain the lawyers, the trust, and the $180 million sitting in an account that does not bear your name. You watch her face as the words sink in. Disbelief morphs into shock, and for a fleeting half-second, something else flickers across her eyes. It is not joy, it is calculation. She stares at you, and the air in the room shifts. You realize in that instant that you have just handed her a map to your life. The intimacy is gone, replaced by a cold, sharp awareness. You are a target. The morning after, the house feels different. Emily moves through the kitchen with a new, deliberate rhythm. She never asks for money directly, but the air is thick with the weight of what she now knows. Every gift you bring home is scrutinized, turned over in her hands as if she is checking for a price tag or a hidden motive. Every dinner you suggest becomes a signal, a test to see if you will offer the most expensive option on the menu. You find yourself hesitating before you speak, measuring your words to ensure they do not sound like a justification for your wealth. If you say no to a trip or a purchase, the silence that follows is sharp. She looks at you, her eyes searching for the reason, and you see the accusation forming. Are you being reasonable, or are you being selfish? If you say yes, the gesture feels hollow, as if you are buying loyalty rather than sharing a moment. The intimacy that once felt effortless is now a series of calculations. You watch her move, and you realize you are no longer a person to her. You are a resource. 3 months later, the silence in the house is absolute. Emily packs her bags in the hallway, her movements sharp and final. She does not look back. She tells you that you have changed, that you are paranoid, suspicious, and distant. She says the life you built is a cage, and she can no longer breathe within it. The door closes, and the house feels suddenly, violently empty. You are alone, but the isolation is short-lived. The rumors have already begun to circulate. A cousin finds your new house on social media and sends a message that sounds like a demand. A former coworker starts asking questions that feel like an interrogation. A neighbor sees 2 luxury cars in your driveway and begins doing math he has no business doing. You watch the notifications pile up on your phone. You sit in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, realizing that the walls you built to protect your fortune have become the very thing that marks you as a target. The world is starting to look at you, and for the first time, you understand that you are no longer invisible. You are exposed. The phone begins to ring. and it does not stop. Old friends from college, people you have not spoken to in a decade, suddenly remember your birthday. They call with voices pitched to a tone of forced warmth, asking about your life before pivoting, with practiced ease, to their own. One man describes a business venture he calls a can't-miss opportunity, his words tumbling out in a rush of desperate optimism. Another sends a message detailing a medical crisis, the text ending with a request for $50,000 to cover the costs. You read the words, and the weight of them is suffocating. When you refuse, the tone shifts instantly. The warmth vanishes, replaced by a sharp, biting resentment. You are called selfish, cold, and ungrateful. You watch the screen, realizing that these people do not see a person on the other end of the line. They see a resource. They see a way out of their own debts, their own failures, their own stagnant lives. Every message is a demand, every conversation a pitch. You have been reduced to a ledger entry, a solution to be mined until you are empty. The world is no longer knocking, it is swarming. The swarming becomes a siege, and you realize that silence is no longer enough. You hire a security consultant who speaks in cold, tactical terms about perimeters and blind spots. Within a week, the house is transformed. Motion sensors line the perimeter, and a reinforced steel door is installed in the basement, creating a safe room that feels like a tomb. You watch the monitors from your desk, tracking movement on the driveway with a hollow, rhythmic dread. Your world shrinks to the size of these walls. You stop going out for coffee or groceries. When you do leave, you move with a rigid, calculated caution. You memorize the exits in every restaurant. You scan the faces of strangers, searching for recognition or intent. You find yourself analyzing the distance between you and the nearest door, calculating how long it would take to reach it if the room turned hostile. It is a strange, bitter irony. When you were poor, you walked down the street without a second thought, invisible to the world. Now, with millions in the bank, you are a prisoner of your own safety. You are more vulnerable, more exposed, and more terrified than you ever were. The cameras and the steel doors provide only the illusion of control. You are sitting at the kitchen table, the house silent, when the headlights of a sedan sweep across the living room wall. It lingers at the end of the driveway, engine idling, before slowly rolling forward. You watch the feed, your breath hitching, as a figure steps out and walks directly to the front door. They do not knock. They press the intercom and speak your name, a calm, steady sound that cuts through the house like a blade. The next morning, you find a white envelope tucked into the frame of the front gate. Inside is a single sheet of paper, typed with clinical precision. It mentions the brand of your car and the specific window you leave open in the study at night. The precision is the most terrifying part. The safety you bought is a lie, and the person watching you knows exactly where you sleep. The walls of your home feel less like a shelter and more like a cage, yet the terror of being watched forces a radical shift in perspective. You realize that if you are going to be a target, you might as well be one that matters. Late one night, you stumble across a digital fundraiser for a stranger facing a terminal diagnosis. You do not think. You click, you transfer, and you watch the progress bar jump toward the goal. The relief that washes over you is physical, a sudden release of tension that has held your chest tight for months. You begin to hunt for these moments of impact. You pay for cancer treatments, cover tuition for first-generation students, and clear the debt of local food banks. You are no longer just a person with money. You are a silent, invisible force of intervention. You formalize this effort, building a foundation to manage the flow of resources. You sign the papers, hire staff who never see your face, and watch as schools receive supplies and families stay in their homes. For the first time since the winning numbers appeared on your screen, the hollow silence of your life is replaced by a quiet, steady hum of purpose. 5 years vanish into the ledger of your foundation. You have signed away $50 million, yet the numbers in your accounts only climb higher. a self-sustaining engine of wealth that refuses to stop. You are no longer the person who worried about the car payment or the mortgage. Those fears are ghosts from a different life. You have solved every problem that once kept you awake, but in their place, a new, colder silence has settled in. Without the pressure of scarcity, the sharp edges of your ambition have dulled. You wake up without the need to chase anything, because everything is already within reach. The hunger that once defined your days is gone, replaced by a strange, drifting apathy. You have upgraded your problems to a level that the rest of the world cannot comprehend. You no longer fear the bank, the landlord, or the hospital, but you have lost the ability to feel the weight of a choice. When you can buy anything, nothing feels rare. You walk to the basement, the air cool and still behind the heavy steel door of the vault. Inside, resting on a velvet tray, lies the only object that matters, the original ticket. You pick it up. The paper is brittle, the ink fading, yet those 7 random numbers still hold the same weight they did 5 years ago. You trace the edges with your thumb, feeling the texture of a choice that separated you from millions of others. It bought you the walls that protect you, the foundation that feeds others, and the power to reshape the lives of your family. But as you stare at the slip, the silence of the room presses in. You realize that while the money bought you safety, it also dismantled the life you once knew. You look for the person who bought that ticket at a dusty gas station, but that person is gone, replaced by someone who lives in a world of infinite access. You place the ticket back, close the vault, and listen to the heavy lock click into place, realizing that the most expensive thing you ever bought was the life you lost. The question remains. It follows you into the quiet of the night, echoing against the walls of a house that feels more like a museum than a home. If you could stand at that counter again, with the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead and the jackpot sign flickering in the dark, would you still reach for your wallet? Would you still ask for that one quick pick? You have everything you ever thought you wanted, yet you are haunted by the person you used to be. You traded the struggle, the hunger, and the uncertainty for a life of infinite, hollow access. You gained the world, but you lost the version of yourself. Was it worth the price? You stare at the empty space where your old life once stood, and you realize the truth. Sometimes, the most expensive thing you can ever buy is the person you were before. You still do not have an answer. You never will.